You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Mansell,
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
and we're your hosts for this show, and we are finally here on a Sunday, 8 o'clock, like we always say we're going to do. This time we were able to do it. Yeah, so of course, now we're reviewing episodes 5 and 6. As you guys know, we were a little late getting out our reviews on episodes 3 and 4. We had to do that last Thursday, but we're back on track. Of course, these two episodes did come out last Monday, and actually, I read somewhere that 7 and 8 are dropping tonight. So it's almost like, it seems like we're getting these things out like right at the very edge or something.
Yeah.
But it is kind of strange. And then I know the final two, May the 4th, of course, is, I believe, a week from Monday. So that's when final episodes will come out. People have actually bugged me to do like a special May the 4th show, which, of course, makes sense. Star Wars channel, May the 4th show.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to do. And I'm not sure. We could talk about it at some point. On one hand, it's like, okay, well, if they did something like what they're doing now, where they actually did the final episodes of Maul, we can almost do that final review on that day. Or, we could do what we usually do, hold the review of Maul till the following Sunday, and then just do something, some special topic. But again, now we're reviewing episodes 5 and 6. Let's do something different. Let's actually, because Ted has chatted in a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Let's let him kick off with his thoughts, and then of course we could jump in with our own. And he's got quite a few here actually. So he says, "I'm going to say something similar to what I said when I watched Ahsoka." Okay. He says, "If you are a fan like me who likes to see good versus bad with lightsabers and light blasters in the galaxy far, far away, then this is another dose of what is good and right with Star Wars." Okay, so far I'm on that. And then he goes on to say, also, to be honest, with series like this, Bad Batch, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and Mandalorian, if we never got another movie, it'd be okay. And if all we got for the next decade is animated, I'm okay too. And then he goes on to say, to be honest with this, Bad Batch, Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka, well, actually, there must have been some of those other ones. Now, we actually have a new chatter. Paula, 1966, says, "Hello, do you both think Keanu Reeves would play a great Darth Revan?" Taking Paula's comment first, actually, yes. I never really even thought about that, but, that would actually be somewhat of an inspired cast choice, actually. I don't know. What do you think? You think that would be? She chats in something else too, but we'll finish this Darth Revan thing. You think Keanu Reeves would be good?
I never thought about it. It was funny though. To her point, did you know that he almost got the role of what's his face?
You're not
From
talking about
Acolyte.
Kamir? Yeah, Kamir.
No, Saul.
Oh, right. No, I do remember reading something about that actually.
Yeah, he was actually he almost got that role. I don't know if that's good or if that would have made it better or worse, but
well, at least
like
at least the actor can, has a handle on the
speak
language.
the
That's
Yeah,
where I felt
exactly.
really bad for him. I always forget his name, but
I know, right?
because he's a great actor actually, and like you see him in
Yeah.
Squid Game, man, he's like on point. He is solid, and I thought, look, people can say whatever they want. I thought he did a really, really admirable, good job, considering that he basically doesn't really speak English, and he more or less learned to basically sound this stuff out, for that show, right? And
Not to
he was.
mention. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that he he still was able to emote and get the gist of the character down. So you got to
Mhm.
tip your hat to that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the added challenge for him, I mean, I know we gave him a bunch of, you know, grief about it, but because results are just what they are, right? At the end of the day, I mean, what you put out there is what you put out there. But I don't want it to seem like I don't understand. Like, yes, number one, with English not being your native language, um, I could understand, like, and I appreciate his attack and trying to really, embody the character and grasp a hold of the language. But the other barrier is it's like not only are you trying to learn English, but you're trying to understand, you're trying to use Star Wars lingo on top of that and say all these other names. I mean, it's hard enough for us to even say a name. So
Yeah.
boy, you got,
Well, at
you're
least we
trying to
have
learn
the
the language.
decency. We have the decency to just not remember them. I mean, it's like
Right.
now we're at half the time we're asking the people in the chats. But yeah,
But when
no,
we
you
have to try to
100%, man.
pronounce,
Yeah.
that's almost like saying dilithium crystals and you're not from here. Like, I know there's a Star Trek reference, I know. But
Well, you know what? It's sort of like Harrison Ford said, right? You can write this
like
crap,
you
but you can't say it.
stuck. Can't say
So,
it. Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so Paula
Exactly.
also follows it up. 'Cause actually, there's a lot of Grandmasters in here. This is like, eventually we'll get to
Oh,
our review of
exploded.
this show. But um, Paula says, oh, let me put it up. I'm just about to read it. That's hilarious. She says, if you watched Maul Shadowlord, do you think that Pink Twi'lek Devon will become Darth Talon? That's pretty interesting too. Because it
um,
does track, right? Because of course the Darth Talon thing, that was all part of like George Lucas's, like if he had been able to make 7, 8, 9 himself, that's where he was going, and it was supposed to be like his apprentice or something. I mean, that would be interesting, and honestly, I did get shades of that when I started watching episodes 3 and 4. I'm like, well, that would track. I mean, do I think that's gonna happen? I doubt it, and here's why. Because I don't necessarily think that Maul, being that he dropped the whole Sith Lord thing, I don't necessarily think he's going to train somebody to become like a Darth somebody, right? I think he's a little disillusioned with the whole Sith thing, to be quite honest. So I don't necessarily see that. However, they could. Who knows? You got an opinion on this?
yeah, I mean, I'm, I'm with you. I think because of Maul and where he is and as a character, that he's really not into the whole. I mean, he doesn't even carry the name Darth,
Right.
so it it's kind of like it would be kind of disingenuous for him to try to recreate something that he kind of has grown to despise in a way because of the way he was treated by Palpatine. So
Well, and
um
not to be nitpicky here. I'm not. Think I'm not actually sure. This is like one of those you'd have to consult the bylaws or something. But um, being that he's not technically a Sith master yet, I mean, I don't think he could actually bestow a Darth name on somebody.
that's true. I
You
mean, that's
know,
almost kind of
like
like that's almost
this,
like Anakin making himself a Jedi Master or something like that. Like you can't
right?
bestow that upon yourself
Because
just because you
like
feel like it.
Sidious would just be like, whoa, whoa, hold on. First of all, you left the
Excuse me, I
order.
believe I can.
Yeah, I'm the guy. Like, I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't think that he could actually do that, even if you wanted. I mean, hey, look, I mean, you can call yourself whatever you want, I guess, but
Maybe he identifies as. Never mind. Let me stop.
yeah, it could be. All right, so
Let
then
let me stop.
Paula's got this other one. She says, I've heard that Abeloth might be coming to Ahsoka season 2. I heard that too. And Natalie
Hmm.
Portman might be returning as Padme, and Abeloth will take her form to deceive Anakin. That would actually be an interesting thing, and I've heard that too. Again, it's really difficult sometimes. Now, Grandmaster, of course, is on the show tonight, so he could have, being the insider, he could actually confirm or deny this or tell us he can't say. But there is a um I don't know, there's a possibility. I could see the door being open for that, right? Like I could see that actually being a thing. Ted of course basically concurs about Keanu would be awesome. Paula then goes on to say, I always wondered in Star Wars Rebels, Twilight of the Apprentice, when the Sith Temple exploded on Malachor and Vader walked away, if you ever look back at the destroyed temple thinking about Ahsoka. I think so. I remember reading that, actually, and I think that was, I mean, it's one of those things too, and in the comic books, by the way, if you read a lot of the Darth Vader series comics, they delve into the whole Padme thing big time.
Hmm.
Especially, ooh, timeline's a bit off, maybe 2018, 2019, something like that. There was a series where, and again, I had talked about this, where he was going after, there's a couple of different comic series. One, he was going after everybody that hid the whole Luke Skywalker thing. But then there
Yeah.
was another where um he was like seeking, it might have been part of that, but I remember he ended up going to Padme's tomb. He ran to Dorme.
Yeah,
He
I was just about to bring up Dormac. Yep.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't, he didn't end up killing her. I think he ended up killing her later, but I mean, he
They
didn't do
did
it.
duel though, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they?
Yes. Well, that was the same series I think that he ran into Costa New too. Either it was either him or it
Hmm.
was one of the other ones where I was kind of like, "Whoa, what?"
Yeah, it was the Casa New. Yep.
Yeah, that was a really weird. That was a weird series,
Yeah.
but it was really good. And honestly, if you're a big fan of the whole, Vader, like once Machine Vader came to be, and like how he felt about the Padme thing, some of that's explored very deeply actually in those comments. All right, Grandmaster, of course, setting us straight here. All right, says Keanu has been discussed several times for the Darth Revan role. Revan is canon. Keanu continues to be full of other commitments. Okay, and then he goes the Darth Talon thing. Darth Talon's timeline, as compared to this show timeline, is almost 200 years difference. Lucas's original timeline, which was another thing I was actually going to bring up, is that yes, you do
Right.
have a timeline difference. On the other hand, given the fact that Lucas's treatment obviously is dead, right, Grandmaster?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is a lot of times they cherry pick from stuff too. Like
Yeah,
they've been known to cherry pick little things, like okay, granted this was supposed to take place, you know, 1,000 years prior to or after something, but they might find a way like, oh, we could kind of slip this in and make this person this character and not, you know, um,
right. Yeah, they could
like
easily
Kira.
ret.
Like Kira was like another, like it was a
Yes.
character, like, is a prime example of that.
Yep. Yep. That's a good point. He goes on to say, does it make sense for Natalie to be Abeloth knowing her past role, father, daughter, and the son? Well, I mean, not to be super critical, but there have been things in the past where I've questioned whether or not it made sense, and some of those things, panned out to be, yeah, my original thoughts were correct. But I'll be honest, a lot of times there were things that I thought, I think this might end up being a misstep, and I was pleasantly surprised, and it wasn't. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a good idea. I would agree with that. I know Natalie Portman wants to return to the Star Wars universe, and I'm sure there's a lot of ways that could be done. I don't know if that's necessarily the best way either, but hey, I mean, it's kind of like what you and I have said, and we say it at every show, almost every show. It's like as long as the writing is good, as long as the acting, the direction,
Right.
the execution is good, as long as there's a plan in place
Hmm.
to where you actually have an end game, and you're basically doing this intentionally, which is why I think the sequel trilogy was all over the place and was definitely hit and miss. I think if you do that, you'll be okay. And I think that the fans would accept a lot of different things as long as it was done well. So, getting to now these 2 episodes, um, now that we've got everybody, we've definitely broken the ice, even a new person chatting, so this is, fantastic.
We've warmed ourselves up.
Yeah, we've warmed ourselves up. So, I mean, again, I really enjoyed these 2 episodes, and I thought that they made a really, really great pairing.
1-2 punch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought the balance is really good. I liked how, episode 5 more or less focused on the Empire coming in and,
Hmm.
obviously the Inquisitor, Marok or something like that.
Maruk.
Marok,
Maruk.
whatever.
Yep.
So,
That's what I was actually checking on before the show, because
yeah,
that's the
wasn't
same
he
one that
in
Ahsoka.
something else?
He was Ahsoka. That was the one Ahsoka fought in Ahsoka.
Yes. Okay.
That's why I was
Because,
just like, wait a minute, like
well, wait,
that's
was the helmet the same?
yep.
Okay. Because, that helmet reminded me a lot of.
Yeah, it does. But
It's
Kamira's was
very
like one big smile that was like
yeah,
a
well,
Joker.
yeah, the smile thing. I still think his is like one of the coolest. Like, I actually am a big, even though look, I know the Acolyte is terrible, but I was a huge fan of his character though, and I loved like the look of his helmet and all that
Mhm.
stuff. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised because I thought the same thing, and I'm glad you checked it out because I'm like, man, I know this character. I've seen him before.
Yeah, that's what it was about. And I heard even when I heard the name on the show, I was like, man, I wonder if that's the same. So I was just like, yeah. So that I'm like, okay, cool. That's the same one that Ahsoka fights in the live
Yeah,
action.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. And I'm glad that they're doing that. The one of the things I will say that I do love about Disney Star Wars is the fact that they are good at unifying the canon. Like
Yeah.
they really are following through on their promise. Like, look, okay, we're going to unify the um, movies, the books, the comics, to a certain degree, the games. Not fully. There's still a little bit of wiggle room there, but they really are doing a really good job, I think, at unifying the canon, bringing characters in and out, and having a form of continuity there. So I was really happy about that. And I was happy with episode 5. They did focus on that. They focused a lot on Lawson's issues. So you had a lot of the law and order side of it. You had a lot of the political intrigue side of it. You know,
Hmm.
obviously you had Docky, you had Devin, they're running. You had a little bit of that. And then of course for episode 6, that's when you start to really deal with where the characters are you're starting to see the matchups. Because of course we wanted to see, you know, Marok fight Maul. And
Yeah.
we wanted to see some of these other things. And then of course the way the thing ends, we can speculate, who do you think he's talking to? Because
Man, that's the question of the night, man. Is it's like, was it Vader or was it Palpatine? Like which it's one of the two.
well,
I mean,
I
considering
and
that Vader was generally overtraining the Inquisitors, I'm more
sure that
um
was established in Obi-Wan more or less. I mean, but then
yeah.
again, it could
But it
be.
could be Palpatine if he's the one who's like seeking out the, I guess, former Padawans, or if he's the one who's turning them to the dark. You know what I mean? Like who's really,
Well,
because that's and
I think where
I
I
would
could
love to
see,
see an Inquisitor show, honestly.
yeah, that would actually be pretty cool too. And I wouldn't mind, I'm kind of on board with what Ted's talking about. I am happy of the theatrical return to Star Wars, but if all we got were like these really brilliantly done animated shows, I'd be good.
Yeah,
I would
me
be good.
too.
If you gave us more of those, then it would be cool. And yes, having a show on the Inquisitors, I think could be done and be done well.
And you
However,
could do it either way. You could do it live action or animated.
yeah, like a combination
Because
of the two. But it just
Yeah,
the only
because
reason why I say animated though is because it seems like the live action shows are so hit and miss these days,
true, very
especially with
true.
Filoni.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Well, the thing about the Inquisitors is because like their story is very unique because in order to become an Inquisitor, in my mind, either they were force sensitive um, children that Palpatine either found and then somebody had to turn them, or maybe they were already just kind of,
on their way.
bad
Yeah,
seeds anyway.
right.
You're right. Or you had former Jedi and like, okay, look, I could kill you or you could come work for us.
Well, that's
And
basically what I mean. At least from canonically speaking, that's pretty much the choice that they were given. Like, look,
yeah,
you're either gonna die or you're gonna work for us. And they're like, well, they'll just go for option B. But
yeah.
here's a couple of things that I'll say really quickly about the point about who that character could be. So one, if it is Palpatine, you could see that because Maul was his apprentice, and he has a vested interest in capturing Maul, which is what this whole thing is centered
Hmm.
on. The only other thing that I could see, a third option, it's a long shot, but it's possible, is it could be the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, yeah, that would make sense.
And, it would
I
be, I mean, it,
mm, mm,
again, it would make sense and it would go along. I mean, I think that would be the most disappointing choice, obviously. We all want to see Vader or Palpatine,
yeah,
but I mean, everybody
yeah.
wants to see him anyway, right? Um,
Right. Well, the only reason why I was just thinking was because them that like with Maruk kneeling, calling him what is it, Master or My Lord or something like that.
yeah, he said my
Like
lord, but I mean, the Grand Inquisitor though is a
so
pretty high up guy. I mean, he's, that's
yeah,
why I'm
but I
saying
don't
it
think they
could
will
be
call
him.
them. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the terms that he used. That's the key for
It's
me. Like when you say
possible. I mean, that's what I'm
Lord, I'm
saying.
like,
It's
eh.
it's possible.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, 100%.
I mean, I don't know, and I mean, who knows? Maybe I could just tune in tonight and at least find that part
Yeah,
out, right?
right,
Even if I had to
right.
rewatch it for the review next week, it's like at least scratch that itch. But
Exactly.
yeah, Grandmaster's got a couple here. He says, as I shared in the Discord, Natalie did film some scenes for another project, but those scenes were cut. This is funny. He basically says to Paula, "Very nice to meet you. Join the Discord." More direct than I am. And then, of course, David joins us. Hello, gentlemen. It's Star Wars Day. So it's good to welcome David back for a little bit of an absence. And yes, it's good to Paula. And yes, Paula, I mean, not to single you out or anything, but if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. Join the Discord, and it's all kinds of really fun discussion. And Grandmaster does his best to keep us updated on, well, pretty much everything that's going on from an insider perspective. So that's always fun. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure that that's the case. I just don't. It is getting toward the end, though. So I could see it being a Vader or Palpatine situation simply because that would be like the big reveal at the end kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And, I believe Grandmaster was saying that this, not, I don't remember. I think, because there's been a bunch of discussion on the Discord lately about the success of it, right? And this is one of the lowest rated, even though it came out very strong in the gate. I guess it has some of the lowest viewer numbers or something, and it's almost like the season 2 was greenlit before a lot of this stuff came out because I think they were making a lot of assumptions. Now I'm not sure why that would be the case because I mean I honestly think this is one of the best series, not even just animated, but best series that they've come out with in a long time. One of the biggest compliments that I can pay this thing is that you forget that it's animated.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I could see what people would be, especially if you weren't a uh, huge Maul fan, or maybe if um, you don't. I think this is more for more the serious fan than the casual, and I think that may be somewhat off-putting, maybe to some. I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but um, I mean, I think the show is great. Uh, I think now, especially where we're coming, like you said, as we're coming to a close of this, and now we're getting either Palpatine, Vader, Grand Inquisitor, you know, like I guess we'll find out tonight, or whenever we decide to watch these next two episodes, um, where this is going next. And so, season two, it seems like it's really prime. And that's the thing about uh, certain things, like when you have things that's coming in succession, is that the first one is usually the setup, so it takes a minute for it to kind of set with you sometimes. But then by the time the second part comes out and it's out the gate, now we don't have to introduce all these people. We kind of got the background stuff out of the way, and we can just go for it. It goes over better with people.
I
Excuse me.
will say this. I think that this show could, if they don't do this in another, I still was sort of hoping for, well, I was actually hoping for sequels, and then I thought, well, maybe they could do it in a series. But back when they were going to make a Solo 2 and Solo 3, where they were going to focus on Kira, Crimson Dawn, all that stuff. Okay, with this series, they're going a little bit earlier, right? They're showing Maul before he basically takes over Crimson Dawn, and it's almost like he was pushed into the underground. Season 1 seems to me like how he comes up. I could see a season 2, a season 3, whatever, starting to focus on him now establishing himself as the leader of Crimson Dawn, and then maybe you do bring Kira in it. Even Dryden Voss, if you want to go back and prequelize Solo, which they're kind of doing now anyway. So I could see them going into um, multiple directions with this thing, where it's wide open, and you could actually sustain a series like this. And this is the first time that I think that they've been able to do something like that, because where Maul has appeared before has basically been how he's fitting into a larger story, right? It hasn't really focused on him. All he wanted was revenge on Kenobi and all that stuff. And it basically came to that section of his life. But when they did the big reveal at the end of Solo, and you find out that he was the true head of Crimson Dawn, you're kind of like, well, whoa, there's a lot of story here. I mean, it's almost like in the Clone Wars when he ruled Mandalore there for, like 10 minutes or
Mhm.
whatever it was. So it's just kind of strange. Now, Grandmaster clarifies some of this stuff. He says internally, Maul Shadowlord is second highest viewed Star Wars animation series behind Clone Wars. Okay, that makes sense. Unfortunately, expected numbers were to be 10 plus million in lieu of 2 million average up to episode 6. And again, I mean, I think it's kind of an unpopular thing to say in the Star Wars community, but I think it has to be said. You are seeing the loss of the invincibility of this franchise. That's why.
Mhm.
It used to be you put anything with the name Star Wars on it, people flocked from miles to go check it out. And unfortunately, they've overpromised and underdelivered in a few of their shows, and I think people have just lost interest. So these numbers make sense. Whereas the core fans, the people that are Star Wars fans, and they're basically going to consume pretty much anything that has a Star Wars name on it, like us, well, great. That's going to be highly rated because I think they recognize the same thing that we do, that this is a very well done, well written, uh, very nicely executed show. However,
Mhm.
I think that just the casual fans, and again, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing either, because I was always of the opinion that even though I get it from a marketing perspective, they need to just not dial in every project for the casual fan, because I think they're doing both the franchise a disservice by not getting into the meat and telling very compelling stories, and then they're also pretty much shortchanging the hardcore fans that have been there from the beginning and will stay. It's almost like how when an artist keeps trying to, chase commercial success after they put out a couple brilliant albums that establish who they really are, and then it's like, oh, we need to broaden our audience. Let's commercialize our sound. Well, it's not going to be commercial enough for those, poppy type fans, and it's also going to alienate their core fans because it's not what made them famous in the first place. And I think this is where Star Wars sits a little bit.
Agreed.
Grandmaster says Clone Wars averaged 3 million per episode. Bad Batch 1. Okay, yeah, and by the way, all this is in our Discord. He went to great lengths of putting a lot of this information. David, is Maul's refusal to leave Janix driven by strategic greed, or is he starting to fall back into his obsession with the Sith? My personal opinion is twofold. I think he is developing an obsession to train Devin and to pretty much deal with her. I also think that his bigger, launching the criminal underworld portion still is concentrated there, right? Because it's like, well, where are you really going to go? I mean, because if you think about it, the Empire they had never arrived. Remember where we left off? Was it the end of episode 2 or 4? Probably 4, where he basically told, yeah, I think it was 4, where he basically told Lawson, hey, listen, if you leave me alone, just let me do my thing. I won't cause you any trouble.
Problem.
Right. I won't cause you problems. And in fact, I can even help you. I can, keep some things under control or whatever. That to me says, hey, I have some long-term plans on this planet. And even though the Empire coming in has complicated that somewhat, I don't necessarily think that he is in the position to where he can change those right now, for reasons that, of course, are still unknown to us.
Can you put this question back up there for a second?
Who, David's?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure. Refusal to leave Jenny driven by strategic greed, or is he starting to fall back into his obsession with this? Okay, so part of it is strategic greed. Yes, um, he's. I mean, that's kind of a Sith thing anyway, just because part of being a Sith is craving and power, and greed is kind of the root of that. A lot of times, you become greedy for power, for knowledge, for a bunch of stuff. So in a way, they're kind of symbiotic in a way. But I think the overall greed of him becoming like, hey, I'm making a name for myself. I'm taking over the criminal underworld and becoming the guy. Basically, like I pretty much run everything. But it's partially to prove, part of that reason is to prove to Palpatine that he was worthy. Because remember, he thought, well, Palpatine thought he had died anyway at the hands of Obi-Wan. But then when he came back and then he tried to regain his, place at Palpatine's side, Palpatine had already moved on from him. And he felt slighted because of that, which is why he hates Vader so much. And why he hates, anything that deals with, and he feels messed up about, Palpatine. So he's hell bent on getting revenge on the people who hurt him. And so that's what you hear in the very beginning. Was episode 1 or 2 is either he's like, this is the fate of everyone who has betrayed me. And so
Right.
that's his thing, is that it's about the revenge. So his obsession with the Sith is not in the sense of obsession to become a Sith Lord anymore.
Well, I
It's
mean,
more
David's
so
point
like,
was, is he falling back into that? And that's why I'm saying no. I think it's more the,
and that's what I'm saying. Like,
and I
he's
don't even
not
think
trying
it's
to become
necessarily
that anymore.
right. I mean, in
He's
strategic
he
greed,
his
it's like,
obsession is to get rid
yes.
of them
I
in a
mean,
way.
like I said, I think, again, I think it's just twofold. I think part of staying, because remember, the crux of this question is why is he staying on Janix? Because all this stuff that we're saying can be done anywhere, but why Janix? And the two reasons that are at least given in universe are, number one, the Devon thing was an unexpected addition. And so now he has a little bit of a thing now with, I don't know if he wants to train her or make her an ally or whatever it is. And then, of course, the other part of it is, like I said, I mean, he obviously had long-term plans, which goes into what you're talking about for his ascension in the criminal underworld. Whatever
This
he
is his
was
base of
doing,
operations,
yeah,
essentially.
there's something about Janix that is important for that purpose. And that's why he has a refusal to leave. And then, of
Well,
course,
part of that, and it's is when you I did some research. Janex is actually based on Gotham and Metropolis.
yeah, we can, I
The
mean,
look, if you look
there's,
at the
yeah, I
way
mean,
it
there's a
looks,
lot of,
it's
yeah,
so it kind of makes sense. Like, this is a place where Maul is kind of like it's almost like his home is like a culture thing. So, and I could see why he would like this place. This almost like embodies him.
yeah. I mean, and again, and that's where, Grandmaster says, is Maul even still considered a Sith? And I mean, no, obviously not.
No,
And I mean, even in the title, it's not Darth Maul Shadowlord, it's Maul Shadowlord. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that there's any falling back into a Sith specific thing. Obviously, he feels like you're talking about betrayed by Palpatine and Sith. I don't think he wants anything to do with that. But, much like when Ahsoka abandoned the Jedi Order there for a while, it's not like she really, I mean, she just abandoned, the actual order itself, but not necessarily how do I want to put it? Like basically the code or whatever. Like she still lives
some
her,
of it, yeah.
yeah, like not all the tenets and, okay, attachments are forbidden, you can't do this and you got to do that or whatever. But the overall concept
The morality part of it.
and the morality part of it. And I think that that's where Maul is at pretty much on the Sith side of things, is the fact that he's more for himself now, and he obviously has the dark side powers that he utilizes, just not specifically as a Sith. And so I just think that from that standpoint, we can move away from that. And that's what I think also makes the show so interesting. The fact that now, Maul's facing these Inquisitors, which of course by Palpatine, led by Vader, and to pretty much extinguish all the Jedi after Order 66. Well, the interesting thing is now they're coming up against a former Sith. Now they're coming up against a dark side user. So
Mhm.
that little spin makes the confrontations a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
It's
like I
all
said, I think on the last show, um, the Inquisitors had, in principle, been trained to, of course, deal with force users, but primarily light side users
right.
because they're trained to hunt and kill Jedi. So the Jedi kind of, because of their culture, because of their dogma, they think and fight a certain kind of way. Whereas now you're dealing with someone who's the complete antithesis of that. And it's almost kind of like, well, I can't even say he fights like an inquisitor because inquisitors are lower in power and rank than a Sith, or than a former Sith Lord. I mean, he is a former Sith Lord, by the way.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's a different ball game. It's not just a dark side user. It's not just like, oh, you use the dark side. No, 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 no. This is like, I'm up there. I'm in the upper echelon of, it's like, oh, okay, you're not some bench warmer that just came off, the 6 man who comes off the bench. No, I'm a starter. And it's like, yeah, I have a different type of skill set that you're not used to.
Well, in addition to that, another thing that I wanted to point out too is that a lot of the Jedi that turn into Inquisitors, they're not used to fighting any dark side users. I mean, oh, sure,
Hmm.
a few of them might have run into like a Saj Ventress or something, or
Right.
maybe
It's not like it was a gang of them running
Dooku.
around anyway.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There wasn't like a
Right.
bunch of dark side users running around. So that was one of the things in the Phantom Menace, of course, that made it interesting was, when Qui-Gon was like, "Hey, man, we got some problems here because, like, I think the Sith have returned, and they didn't know, like, they haven't
Hmm.
dealt with them. Well, they've been extinct for millennia. Well, okay. Now I'm sure along the way, maybe there were some dark side users, so maybe it's a very Sith specific thing, but still, they weren't really necessarily used to that kind of a thing and that type of fighting style. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, even the Inquisitors, being a lot of them are former Jedi, yeah, it's going to be a new thing for them, and it'll be somewhat of an interesting thing for them as well. And I think that that's part of the dynamic that actually makes the show interesting because there's a
Yeah.
lot of layers to the show, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate.
What other characters like now? Are there any characters that you've grown to really like more that you've seen them, or that you can't stand so far? I mean, we're more than halfway done, so
Yeah, well, yeah, we're pretty much.
at the finish
Yeah, I
line.
mean, we're
So
getting. I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. Like,
this is probably the halfway point actually, because we had one, two, three, and four, and now we have seven, eight, nine, and 10 to go. So we are at the halfway point with episodes 5 and 6. Um, I can pleasantly say that nobody bothers me. Like, there's no character that I dislike or that drives me insane. Um, even some of the even Lawson's kid, which would probably be maybe the
Riley.
closest. Yeah, because I mean, it's one of those things where he's important because of the family dynamic with Captain Lawson, right? It's that
Hmm.
whole how do I balance my job with my family life? And then, of course, one of the things that was a little bit fascinating that we haven't touched on yet is the fact that his mother actually works for the Empire.
I was just
So,
about to say that.
yeah.
Just about to say it.
So, I mean, that was a little bit of an extra dynamic
Hmm.
that's going to complicate the family thing. But really, his entire presence in this show is in order to further the family struggles between his mom and his dad. So, the show could easily survive without him, but he doesn't, it's not like oh, here we go with the kid again. It's nothing like that. Where I'm pleasantly surprised by the fact that there aren't any subplots in the show or anything like that that I am not completely on board with. And that's one of the reasons why I keep rating these episodes so highly is besides how well done they are and everything else, it's the fact that, and it's a rare thing where I'm invested in every facet of a particular show.
I would say the only character that bothers me now, at first it didn't bother me, but now it's starting to bother me.
What, Two
It's a
Boots?
little spy bot. No,
Oh, the spy bot. Yeah.
it's getting annoying and stupid. It's like, okay, you know, um,
But you know why I think that it doesn't bother me is because while I will admit that a lot of what he it's unnecessary, it's so short and so brief that it's almost like a blink and you miss it kind of thing. And he is keeping Maul up to date on, where people are and what people are doing. So as annoying as he admittedly is, I think that's part of the reason why he doesn't register on my annoying radar is because he's not a focus per se. Now, if that changes, then my answer will change. But so far, it's more of a segue than a focus.
Yeah, I get that. I mean,
But
I just
but I agree with you though. I mean, he's, I mean, if we're talking basically wearing thin, that would be definitely.
it's like, it's kind of like of a useless character in a way. It's like, okay, to me, you're really not adding to the story, or like at least Two Boots. I mean, was it's kind of a stupid name because you just call them boots. It's not a pair of boot anyway.
Well,
Just
I think you were right when we talked about it in the first episode where we said it's basically like an homage to Two Tubes.
yeah.
But I mean, even that, again, I love the fact that his character starts out very idealistic, and he's slowly realizing the Empire isn't what his programming has led him to believe. And I think that
Mhm.
that's getting more and more interesting too. That he's starting to see, like, oh, maybe, because, through the whole time, he's like, oh, the Empire's brilliant. They're doing this, they're doing that, or whatever. And it's like,
Mhm.
you know, now Lawson's like a wanted fugitive, and it's like, okay, it's sort of like things are chipping away at his idealism, which of course is based on his programming. So it's just going to be interesting to see the evolution of Two Boots and how he's going to factor into any kind of like, is he going to start to, because right now he's more of a passive observer than anything else, right? Like, he's not doing anything to hinder anybody. He's not really doing anything. I mean, he helps Lawson, but right now he's just pretty much staying neutral and out of it. But I think he's starting to slowly realize what's going on, and it'll be interesting in these next 4 episodes whether he's going to make a move.
Mhm. Yeah, I also like Vario.
Yeah,
Vario's a
Vario's
funny
another. He really is, man. I mean, he's a great character.
the conversation
Um.
he had with Maul was priceless.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's he's
You see, he says the things that we're thinking a lot of times, and
right.
that's what I love
He's
about him.
basically a commentary for the audience. Almost like the
Hmm.
fourth wall kind of thing. Because it's funny, and it's so hard to do sometimes where you're comic relief without being overbearing or over the top, or shoehorned in just for the sake of it. I mean, the comedy in this, because even the comedy between Docky and Lawson toward the end, um where there was like some funny exchanges there's, I mean, it's very understated, and it's very circumstantial, which is why the comedy works so well in the original trilogy, is
Hmm.
because it made sense, right? It belonged there.
Right.
It wasn't like we're cracking one-liners and stuff like that. I mean, it was very much situational, and
Exactly.
you could see believably the characters saying these things.
Yeah, like when Leia's like, "You came in this thing, and you're braver than I thought." Like, yeah,
Right.
it's like, oh, this will be,
Or somebody
especially
get
for
this
her.
walking carpet out of my way, that kind of thing, or
Exactly.
no reward is worth this. And I mean, it's just like, these are the way these characters would probably react if they were in these situations. And that's what's happening with Vario. He's definitely reacting in a natural way. He's kind of a comedic character anyway, so he would look at things humorously. And I'm glad that they didn't just sweep him under the rug. No pun intended on his size or anything, but because he does have this whole, like, criminal, like, he does factor into the story, and I'm glad that they dealt with some of that before switching gears and getting into these different themes, because up until then it's been a focus on Maul getting revenge on all these criminal underlords and using Vario's resources to get at the Pikes, to get, it was focused more on that, and now it's shifting towards dealing with the Empire and the Inquisitor, and you know things are starting to bubble up to the surface. So given that, it would have been very easy to just dismiss, the whole other side and just focus on this, which is what a lot of lesser series would have done. And so I'm really curious on, with these next two episodes, like what they're gonna do in that too, because it's like obviously the Empire thing is can't just go, oh, all right, well let's focus back on some of these other things, right? I mean, you got to deal with this now. It's there.
Yeah. You gotta. How do you feel about Lieutenant Blake?
I I I like Lieutenant Blake because I mean I think that he's those are the kinds of characters that are really hard to write without making him a carbon copy of somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the same kind of thing. It's the smarmy little imperial officer who basically has a power
Hmm.
complex that tries to. So it's like, how do you write that yet again without it just mirroring all the characters that came before him? And I think that they did a really good job at making him unique, not crazy unique, not like a Callus or even
Price.
Price, or even like who are the Andor ones? Not Deidre, but the other one, um,
Oh, Cyril.
Cyril. You know, because you got these people that are very different, even though they fit a very similar character type. They're presented very differently. They're written very differently. And I think Blake
Yeah.
is the same thing. He's pretty much what we've seen, but he is unique enough that you can get behind him. And the other thing that I thought was good is that he is somewhat sinister and threatening. I thought that they did a good job of making him, not just some like imperial sap, but somebody that you can imagine.
Yeah.
Obviously, interrogation. I mean, who knows what happened to the chief? I mean, it's kind of implied that she's dead.
Yeah.
Especially you're seeing like
Well.
these like scratch marks and stuff on the table. It's like, all right, I don't think your interrogation went too well, if you know what.
Well, that's the thing about the Empire is that they're very, about uniformity. So, it stands to reason why most of even the officers kind of have that same. 'Cause even if you look at most police officers, like even in in the real world, you know, most of them have a very staunch, a very,
Yeah, there's like a
I mean, not
personality
saying that,
type.
yeah, it's like you have to present yourself a certain kind of way when you're a police officer versus, when you're, even if, a lot of doctors are like that, hey,
Yeah, that's
good
true.
bedside manner. You have to be, because you're representing certain things. But when you're, imperial officer, yeah, it's like, okay, you have to look, sound, act, move like all the other ones. Otherwise, you don't fit in. And of course, their whole thing is trying to, you know, advance their character. I mean, they're not their character, but their position. So yeah,
No, I mean I agree. I think that, from that standpoint, that's why I say that it's hard to write those. Because how do you do it without just I mean, you fall into a trap, right? Because it's like even using your police officer example. If you were just to look at them, more from afar, then yeah, they're going to be very similar. But then when you get to know them, you see the individual personalities and all that stuff. I mean, look, every cop show is like that. But when you're dealing with and yes, obviously Palpatine is going to look for people that fit a certain profile to put into that position. And that profile seems to be a very narrow one. And so, being that that's the case, it's like, okay, well, how do you keep coming up with these characters without it just seeming two dimensional? And because the trick is, if you're going to feature them like you're doing with Blake, you want to give them something that compels you to care about them some way. I don't necessarily mean like, oh, I want this guy to succeed kind of thing. I mean, just that you're invested in the character. And it's not just somebody that you don't care about. That's
Right.
even like the case. You see that all the time in horror movies, right? You have the typical stereotypical characters that you group together, and really you're just developing them barely enough so you can just kill them. But the horror movies that do it right actually create real characters that you care about. So when they're killed, you feel that.
No,
And I
100%.
and I think that that's the case with these imperial officers is that you don't want them to be caricatures because then they almost become a joke, right? It's
Hmm.
like the twirling mustache kind of a villain. You want them to have a certain threatening, like remember the one. I wish I can remember this character's name, but in Andor, the one guy that was torturing Bix, basically. I mean, he was pretty brutal, and
Yeah.
and that's an example of somebody that okay, he fits the typical profile, but he's a very different character. And I think
Even like
Blake,
the,
well,
hmm
Blake has like a very similar. He's similar to some of these other guys, but I think he stands out enough. I think that's probably what I'm trying to say. He stands out enough that you're invested in his character.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, like I said, season two has already been greenlit, so I think we're going to get more of him, and we're
Yeah.
probably going to peel back the layers of him anyway. So, well, I mean, as a first showing, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought he made a really good impression. I think he definitely established himself, and he's somebody that you don't just casually dismiss. You go, oh, okay. It's kind of like in Rise of Skywalker, General Pride, right? He was another one where he was interesting enough that you're like, oh, when his scenes came on, you were invested. That's what I mean. It's a character that you're not just using this guy to transition from point A to point B in the plot or something. I mean, you're literally invested in the character himself. I think that's so we'll have to see because, like you said, season two. Who knows what direction they're going to go in. I mean, we have a little bit of an idea, but we still have 4 more episodes to go, and a lot can happen in those episodes. So it's it's fun speculation, but it's almost pointless to really dial in some sort of prediction. That's something that we'll probably do in the last 2 episodes when we review that. Then we might be able to say, hey, where's season 2 going? But until then, there's still a lot of territory to cover between now and
Well said. Well said. I think that pretty much puts the button on today.
yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, I think that, I mean, hey, we're at about an hour. we I think we did it, and of course we had some really good chats. It was great for
Yeah.
everybody to join us, our regulars, and of course Paul is a new one. So, we're happy to have that. And again, it's fun when people discover us because again, this is just like a bunch of people that love Star Wars getting together and talking about it. And that's what makes
Hmm.
us different, I think, than a lot of the other shows. A lot of the other shows are presented more as like, hey, we're like a news-based show or we're going to give you our be all end all thoughts and everything else where this is more of a discussion show, not just between you and I, but our entire little community that we've created. And to that end, yeah, join the Discord. The Discord conversation continues on that. And I can remind people that when I play Call of Duty, I actually have a channel in our Discord where when I'm on, you'll see and you can actually hop in and whether you're playing or not, you can actually talk to me live there. I mean, even if you want to talk about Star Wars, I don't care. It's not like you got to concentrate that much when you play that game. So I welcome that as
Point and
well.
shoot.
If you guys see me in there, we do actually have like the audio video chat rooms too. It's not just our general chats. I mean, we can get in there and maybe we'll try to uh, advance that a little bit too. Because I'd like to I'd like to actually be able to talk to you guys as well. But yeah, to that end, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when we actually go live. Really important one because our schedule can change, and it often does. And then, of course, hit the like button for this episode so the algorithm can be our friends. And it can actually share this to more than just a few people. So we're always trying to grow the channel. Yes, we have a lot of subscribers, but we still want to grow, get more, get the watch hours so we can be monetized. So yeah, next week we will be discussing episodes 7 and 8. We're getting close to the end here, so it's going to be a really interesting discussion, I think. Let us know in the comments, of course, what you thought of this episode or what you think of the Maul episode so far. And we will see you then. So with that, I'm Eric Bansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.